Hello, I'm doing a movie review, and the movie I want to review is A Nightmare on Elm Street Part 2, Freddy's Revenge. Now this of course was the sequel to A Nightmare on Elm Street, and it was released in 1985, so it was released a year after the first one was released. Now, even though I consider A Nightmare on Elm Street to be one of those movies that really didn't need sequels, I will say I actually really like most of the sequels that were made to it. I actually love most of them, actually. I'm a huge fan of the Nightmare on Elm Street franchise. I even have a poster right above my bed of Freddy Krueger. Yeah. I don't know how well you can see that, because there's like shelves in the way, but yeah, every time I go to bed, he's watching over me. But A Nightmare on Elm Street Part 2, Freddy's Revenge was, like I said, it was released the year after the first one, and it's definitely not as good as the first one. Like, the whole dark tone of the first one is definitely not here, but I will say this is actually a pretty good sequel. The movie is set 5 years after the events of the first movie. The first movie ended where the character of Nancy Thompson, she figures out a way to destroy Freddy Krueger. What happens is she figures that maybe she can take him out of the dream world and into the real world, and she does this, and he of course becomes human again. But then she figures out at the very end that it was really her fear that gave him his power and brought him to life. So she takes away her fear of him, and he ends up disappearing. So this is 5 years after Nancy destroyed Freddy Krueger. What happens is it revolves around a 17-year-old boy named Jesse who just moved into that house that Nancy lived in the first movie. What happens is Jesse now goes to that high school in that town, which the town is called Springwood, and there he starts making new friends, like this girl Lisa, who eventually they start going out, and Lisa becomes, Jesse's girlfriend, and Jesse makes a new friend named Grady, who at first, him and Grady really don't like each other, but they start to, you can tell they start to become friends as the movie goes on. But what happens is, in the house, it gets like obnoxiously hot in the house, and they can't figure out why it's getting so hot, but Jesse starts having nightmares, and these nightmares of course are about Freddy Krueger. Now he has no idea who Nancy was, and so he has no idea who Freddy Krueger was. But what happens is, one night as he's unpacking the boxes in his room, and Lisa's helping him, they find in the closet of the room a diary, and that diary of course belonged to Nancy Thompson. So what happens is they read the diary, and they find out how Nancy has been having these nightmares about this guy named Freddy Krueger. And of course, Jesse, of course, keeps having these nightmares about Freddy, and Lisa and his friend Lisa, thinks that there might be something, because she finds out how Freddy Krueger was actually a serial killer years ago, so she figures that she actually thinks that Jesse might be some kind of a psychic, and he might have some kind of link with Freddy Krueger. But it turns out that Freddy Krueger is trying to bring himself back from hell, but in order to do this, what he wants to do is he wants to take possession of Jesse's body and kill people using Jesse's body. So of course Freddy Krueger does this, towards basically the whole plot line is, Freddy's taking possession of Jesse and killing people in the real world instead of in the dream world, and he's using Jesse's body. So yeah, that's the basic premise. So Jesse is becoming possessed by the spirit of Freddy Krueger. And all in all, I think it's a pretty good sequel. I really don't know why people hate it so much. I will say you can definitely tell it was kind of rushed from the first, because this was released a year after the first one, and the first one was a huge success. But I know a lot of people really hated this movie. Even Wes Craven, the guy who directed the first one, he looked at the script and hated it, and I think, I'm not sure, but I think he may have also been offered to direct this, but he didn't want to. The movie is directed by Jack Shoulder, who before this directed a movie called Alone in the Dark, which had Donald Pleasance in it. He directed a movie called The Hidden. He also directed Wishmaster 2. But yeah. Yeah, but I do find this to be a pretty decent sequel, though it's not as good as the first one. Now, what was I gonna say? Now, one thing that a lot of people love to talk about is how this movie has a lot of homosexual undertones, and I have no problem with that, really. I mean, so what if the movie has, like, gay undertones? I don't care, but I mean, a lot of people love to comment on that, and I will say they're definitely there. You can definitely tell, like, obviously there's a scene where Jesse goes into the leather bar. There's, like, also, Jesse ends up killing his gym teacher, and, I'm not going to give away that scene, but if you've seen the scene, you can probably guess why some people might consider this to be the gay Nightmare on Elm Street movie. I mean, also, it turns out that the actor Mark Patton actually is homosexual in real life, the actor who played Jesse, which I have no problem with that, but, a lot of people love to bring up all the gay undertones that are in this movie, which, like I said, I don't mind it, but they are there. But besides that, it is a good sequel, though. I guess I can kind of get, like, because it was kind of rushed, because this was made, like, right after the first one, I can kind of get why some people don't like it, but I didn't see anything wrong with it, and I think it's a good sequel. And Robert Shea, the guy who produced this movie, makes a really funny cameo in this movie. He makes a cameo at the leather bar, the gay bar that Jesse goes to, and in that one scene, and, like, you see Robert Shea freaking in a leather apron. It's a pretty funny cameo, actually, but yeah, there's really not much else I can say about this, except I think it's a good sequel. I don't think it's as bad as some people say. Robert Englund, who plays Freddy Krueger, of course, does a good job as Freddy, and yeah, bye.